So, welcome everyone to a lunch demonstration given to the public by Restaurant OnTwenty, the team here. So first we want to do a tomato tartlet, and if we have a look here, some of the tomatoes we'll be using. All the tomatoes that we work with right now currently are from Starlight Gardens in Durham, Connecticut, and David Zamelski is the farmer there. He, in our eyes, creates and grows some of the best tomatoes in the state. So we have some heirloom tomatoes here. We also have, these are called Juliet tomatoes. These are wonderful. These are like little mini Roma tomatoes. Great for salsas, great for stews and sauces, but also wonderful in just a salad. Here we have the black cherry tomato, which are just absolutely out of control delicious, and sun gold tomatoes. These are both cherry tomatoes that we use a lot in the restaurant. So we're going to create basically a tartlet, which is a mini tart based on the tomatoes that we have in front of us and some potato. Okay, so it's a nice, very summery, light first course to start off with. So first thing we're going to do is create the tart shell. And what we're doing with the tart shell is something kind of cool. We're using a regular russet potato, just one potato, and we're going to use this machine which creates shoestrings of potato. And we're going to wrap it around a mold and bake it in the oven, and it's going to create the perimeter of the tart for us. So what we have to do is basically just cut our potato to size, and we're going to stick it in this contraption here. Basically what this is rotates, and it spins against this blade right here. And you have different blades that you can put in there. This is the smallest of the blades. And this is going to give us a nice, really cool, long string of potato that subsequently I'm going to wrap around this mold here and then bake in the oven and demold. So I'll just show you kind of how this works. Just twist it up against. You can see I'm creating these strings of potato here that are like shoelaces, really thin, really nice. Really cool to work with. So I'm just going to continue to churn that potato. And I've got plenty of potato right here to make a couple tart shells, which I'll show you really quick. So we take a mold about 3.5 inches wide. We paint it with olive oil because we don't want anything sticking. Okay, we got everything nice and happy and lubed up here. So we're going to paint this with olive oil, and then we're going to take one of these potato strings here, okay? And we don't have to worry about it being long or being disentangled. The whole point of it is we're just sort of going to wrap it around the mold, just as so. Alright, it doesn't have to be super tight. In fact, we don't want it to be very tight because it makes it difficult to demold afterwards. We're just going to wrap it right around. See, I have sort of a nice shell going on right now. I'd like to add a little bit more to that, so I'm just going to add a little bit more potato. We're going to go around. So I create this kind of cool, kind of wild-looking exterior of potato, which again I'm just going to paint again with olive oil, just like that. And of course, salt. With potatoes, very, very important. You can never have, well, you can have enough salt, but you want to make sure you have a sufficient amount of salt. So that, just like this, is going to go right into our oven at 350 degrees. And it's going to come out beautifully golden brown. I have an example right here. Okay, this is what we're looking at, the finished product. It comes out, we demold it, and we make sure that it stays nice and dry. We have a dehydrator here at the restaurant. So next, all we have to do is worry about our tomatoes, which is the easy part, because David Zamelski at Starlight Gardens does all the hard work for us. So what I'm going to do is basically I'm going to create just the base of this tart shell. And I have a punch holder, a circle mold here that I'm going to basically use to help form that base. And I'm going to slice a nice, relatively thick piece of tomato. Gorgeous right here. Okay, and one of the most important things about tomato is to keep it simple. A tomato at its peak right now, there's really nothing that we can do to it except for make sure that it's seasoned properly. And one of the tricks that we do at the restaurant to season a tomato, you notice that there's a lot of moisture right here. And the tendency is to go right into salt, okay? What happens when the salt hits the water, it dissolves. And we often use, at the restaurant, fleur de sel and mulled and salt. Really cool salts that have a texture, that give a crunch, okay? What we're gonna do is I'm gonna punch this out so I create my base here, okay? And before I even think about salt or anything else like that, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put some olive oil right on it, okay? Create a nice barrier between that water and that oil so that now when I put my salt on it, it doesn't dissolve, okay? That crunch of salt will persist. And I'm gonna put a little white pepper on it as well, okay? Okay, now we're gonna assemble the tart. I'm gonna go right to this plate here. I'm gonna start with my tomato at the bottom, okay? Then my potato shell, just around it. And then I have these wonderful tomatoes to select from. I'm gonna take a couple black cherry, a couple sun golds, and a Roma. The Juliet. I'm just gonna sort of cut the Juliet ones up a little bit since they're big. And the rest I'm gonna leave as is. A bit of olive oil, salt, and white pepper again. Okay, now that's ready to go into the tart. But before I go into the tart, we're gonna have a little cheese, and this is house-made ricotta cheese. We make it with some heavy cream, and we make it with regular whole milk, and we make it really loose. This is actually made today, so it hasn't sat long enough, so it's nice and loose and creamy. And that's going to be sort of our cheesy component of our tart here. I'm just going to build the tart up. Sort of like that. Okay. Finally, we're just going to garnish with a little bit of arugula. Make sure we dress that as well. Couple sprigs of arugula and a little bit more of our ricotta. Candy cane beet, just for a little crunch color. We'll finish with a little ricotta around the plate. And there's our seasonal Starlight Gardens tomato and potato tartlet.